breaking barriers and bridging the gaps between patients and doctors. Welcome to Brainstorming with the Docs and your co-hosts, Dr. Glenn Harrison and Dr. Kolby Condos.
All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Brainstorming with the Docs. I'm Dr. Kolby Condos, my co-host, Dr. Glenn Harrison. How's it going, buddy?
Doing great. Doing great. It's not very sunny anymore, but I'm thinking about the sun with this topic.
Right. I think everyone could use a little bit more sun. I definitely know I could. I'm like one of those, I feel like I'm a human highlighter because I'm so pasty and white because I spend so much of my time inside. So my patients will come in.
You just have to start taking your appointments outside.
Yeah.
Just shut it down. Say, hey, we're going.
My patients
outside.
all have this nice tan, and I'm like, you don't want to see me in shorts because it'll look like I'm wearing long white tube socks.
And you're in Minnesota, you can hand out bug spray as they walk into your backyard for your appointments.
Yeah, here you go, everyone. Don't worry. Everyone's worried about, back in the medieval ages, we used to use bloodletting. Here we just call them mosquitoes, so it's fine.
Yeah.
So today we are talking about something that is completely underaddressed, in my opinion, because I cannot tell you if I've ever had a patient that is in the upward end of normal. So today we're talking about vitamin D and why it's incredibly important, because believe it or not, it is hugely important to our human physiology, and no one has enough. Statistics on this are pretty staggering. Mm-hmm. So if this is your first time watching or listening and you get value out of the content, or you have questions, or would just like to follow along, please hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications. We're going to continue to roll out content like this every other week, and hopefully we get something that is applicable to you. So let's talk about vitamin D, why it's so important and why we don't have enough of it.
Well, the stats are quite surprising. In fact, when we looked at this, I thought they were even more aggressive than these, but they said 24% of the U.S. Is deficient, 37% in Canada, 40% in Europe. And that's one reason why it's important, but it's so critical to, I don't know, we're going to talk about some different issues in the body and different systems, but I would say almost every system in the body has there's a component of vitamin D that plays a critical role.
Well, I can't remember where I learned this, but there are two receptors that every single cell in your entire body has. And one is a thyroid receptor and the other one is a vitamin D receptor. So it's crazy to think that every single cell in your body has a receptor for vitamin D. And, 75% of, or 24% of us don't have enough of it.
That's right. Yeah. So we'll jump into some of the different reasons why we need it. And then we'll go into what happened instead of saying, let's just have more vitamin D, but why are we so low? Right.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of important. So I guess first off, I'll jump into some of these. I know we have a list of them here of some of the problems like bone health, for example.
Yeah. I mean, we look at it and it's like, when we're younger, right? Everyone's heard of rickets, right? That's like, it affects every age group. If you don't have enough vitamin D, you're young, you don't have enough vitamin D, you get rickets. You're old, you don't have enough vitamin D, you get osteoporosis.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Osteopenia and then osteoporosis. So it helps you to remineralize your bones. It helps them to harden. It helps you to regulate your calcium levels. I mean, it's huge. It's calcium and phosphorus, so it helps with phosphorus, it helps with calcium, it helps you to.
I know probably in your clinic, if there's somebody that has, osteopenia, osteoporosis, and they're looking for some nutraceutical to try to support this and try to help, try. You're not running for the bottle of calcium. You're dialing in. What's the first thing you want to know? Where's their vitamin D levels, right?
I had this conversation today with a patient who's like,
I have that every few days. I got the same.
You're getting ready to adjust, someone's grandma. She's like, I have osteopenia. And you're like, when was the last time you had a vitamin D panel ran? Well, I don't know, probably 1987. Oh, okay. Maybe let's do that.
Let's do that first. Yeah. And then, so bone, most everybody knows about that, but the immune system, critical component. Both of us see lots of autoimmunity. We talk about autoimmunity all day long. And vitamin D is not only kind of an immune enhancing component of it. It is critical. There's massive data off vitamin D and immune support. But even in the COVID times, there was conversation surrounding about vitamin D that it was a big player in our story and in our defenses. but vitamin D is also what you and I talk about all the time. It's one of a few immune modulators
Yep.
trying to help regulate and
Yep.
modulate and dampen hyperactive immune responses.
Yep. Helps your T-reg cells. Yep.
Yeah. So there's a massive immune component to it. And also cardiovascular. Cardiovascular is a big player now. Now you don't just prescribe vitamin D for all these things. There is a part of it that has to deal with cardiovascular health, strokes, heart attacks, etc. So it's all about getting the numbers in the right place. And I know you came up with this, and I didn't even know vitamin D and musculoskeletal health.
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely help. When you think about it, it helps with strength, muscle development, coordination, function. I mean, if you look at it, vitamin D is kind of one of those things where if you don't have enough of it, you just look at it and you're like, okay, immune system's all out of whack. They're tired. They're prone to fractures. Like,
yeah,
is it that they're really, really sick, or is it maybe that they're not making enough anything? Like their T-reg cells are all out of whack because they don't have enough vitamin D. They're not.
Yeah, I know when you see a lab panel and you see vitamin D really low, it's just there's all of these different thoughts coming through your head. It's like, if this is up, would this improve? If this is up, would this improve? If it's improved, you keep going through these organ systems and wondering what could improve if these numbers are where they should be.
Right.
That's the way I think of it. You don't really know, but it's critical. And I know we even talk about cancer prevention. Now, it's not like I'm dealing with cancer in my office and trying to, manage cancer with vitamin D, but there was some data that we pulled up on colorectal, breast, prostate, pancreatic cancers that vitamin D is believed to be to regulate cell growth and inhibit the development of cancerous cells. So, but what immune component and how is it working? Is it strictly a T regulatory stimulant, and is that the way it's playing into this? Who knows? But the data is pretty remarkable. Yeah, pretty remarkable. Especially there's a lot of research in breast cancer in this.
Yeah, Well, on top of that too, I mean, we talk about all these other things. I mean, all these certain conditions can impact like anyone. I think that actually the one I'm looking back, we skipped one that is huge, especially in like the northern latitudes when we talk about like seasonal affect disorder, right? Or mental health. Yeah. Vitamin D, like you hear this all the time. Oh, it's wintertime. I got the wintertime blues, Oh, you're taking your vitamin D? Well, there's like a certain amount of validity to that, especially if you if it's shown on a lab panel, you do divided vitamin D panel and it's really, really low, and you're suffering from seasonal affect disorder, or you're depressed, or you're sad, or you're feeling unfulfilled, like, hey, maybe we should up your dosage on that quite a bit.
Yeah, the risks are absolutely minimal if there is need.
So minimal, especially if you're like way, way, way low. Like the therapeutic range is like 30 to 100. If you're sitting at 28, well, take a lot. Like you got quite a big buffer, and let's check again in 8 to 10 weeks. And then when we also follow the mental health part, like vitamin D is incredibly important to the brain development and functions. It's like a precursor to some hormone production. There's been literature that shows that it can help with cognitive decline, dementia, and even neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's. So literally, when we look at all this broad spectrum of issues that affect us as humans, right? From osteoporosis to early cognitive decline. Like if you can do one thing to hedge your bets a little bit and to just be a little bit preventative, right? Check your vitamin D level every single year.
I would say if there was one, I don't know, if there's only one test that I could order in my office, if there was only one, which I would leave the industry if that was the case. But if there was only one I could order, I think it would be vitamin D.
I mean, it's
because I'd want to know how high I could dose.
Yeah. Right.
That's exactly.
You're not wrong. And the crazy part is everyone will I have had patients that are like, oh, I'm good. I'm like, are you sure? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, we're going to check anyways. And it comes back, it's like 8. Yeah. I mean, I literally had an 8 this year, and I was like, that is just too low.
Well, we'll get into ranges here right away. But, we're talking about all the benefits of vitamin D and why you need it up. But maybe the question is now, is why are we deficient? Well,
Well, number
that is,
one is like we're never outside.
yeah,
You know what I
we're
mean?
not cavemen anymore. Yet we still have caveman physiology. I always like to make
Right.
that argument because it's true. We're not outside. We tend to live inside. We wear clothes, and so I was outside all day, but they have a big sun hat, and they have lots of clothes on.
Right.
And then
Looking like a tourist with all their
yeah,
sunscreen.
and what is that all day? Is that 6 hours? Like, what is the definition of all
Right.
day now for
Right.
urban dwellers? Like office workers, is all day 4 hours? Is that 3 hours? Or is it an all day 14 hours?
Right.
Probably not 14 hours.
Right.
Probably not. So our
And
definition.
you're only doing that during the summer months.
That's right.
And
That's
on top of
exactly
that, like a lot of us live in northern latitudes,
Mhm.
there's if you're beyond certain latitudes, like you don't even get enough direct sunlight
That's right.
during a lot of the months of the year. So
Yeah.
if you're not making up that vitamin D during the months that you do have direct sunlight and you're not
Mhm.
spending like all day every day outside, you're probably still not going to have enough going into the winter.
So wearing clothes and living inside, okay, there's one we're not cavemen anymore. So there's one problem. But
Yep.
the sun exposure reduction. But then there's another one, and I think there's a third one we can talk about. But there's the other one that's sun. I truly believe sun is a small fraction of our vitamin D levels. I think it's a very small fraction. The reason why I say this, and I know we've talked about this somewhere before, I know we've definitely had personal conversations about this, but the Canadian and American Inuit have some of the best vitamin D levels in the world.
Yep.
Well, why is that? And I've been in the Canadian Arctic where the sun just makes a little circle above you in the summertime. It never goes down. And in the wintertime, it never comes up, never comes
Right.
up for months. And these people have some of the best vitamin D in the world. And the Inuit specifically, every time they harvest a polar bear, the first thing they eat is the polar bear gallbladder. That's loaded with vitamin D. And that was a cultural practice that was implemented and turned into a religious practice. And now that's what it is. And you don't hear of osteoporosis in those cultures, right? You don't hear of osteopenia. It just doesn't exist. So how much of it has to do with the body's ability to absorb nutrients, specifically
Right.
fat?
And what are we putting into our bodies that contain it? Right.
Fat free.
So, yep.
there was a time that everything was fat free.
So are we eating enough of it? And the stuff that we are eating, are we absorbing it?
That's right. Yeah. So digestive problems and a lack of fat absorption is the other big one. There's a third one, and we talked about this before. We talked about it many a times, but that's vitamin D levels tend to be inversely related to inflammatory. So the more inflamed we are, that's where you're getting, and this, that's where you're getting that vitamin D of 4 or 6 or 8.
Mhm.
I've never had that. The lowest I had, I think, was 9 or 12 or something. And it scared me. It made me shake in my shoes when I saw it.
8.
You had an 8?
I literally was like,
oh,
congratulations. That is the lowest I've ever seen.
well, yeah, I have contacts still in the Canadian Arctic if they ever need to go there for some polar bear gallbladder.
Some gallbladder
flight. Yeah, but so what are normal levels of vitamin D? Well, normal versus optimal, I should say.
Right. So the range on normal is it depends on the lab, right? But the labs that I run tend to be 30 to 100.
That's right. Medical community usually wants people, they're happy at 30.
Yeah. I'm happier between 70, 75 and 100.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of where I am too. And sometimes the people are very stubborn to get that number up. Not the people, but their physiology. You got to push and push and push. Of course, supplementation, digestive improvement, trying to knock down their inflammatory responses. And I know you've seen this in clinic where people, they got really, really low vitamin D. You give them a really high dose vitamin D, and literally over months, their vitamin D slowly creeps up. And and that vitamin D that the supplement they're taking is more and more powerful because you've curbed the inflammation and the absorption of fat is improving. So then you have to back off vitamin D because it's more potent. So then you can.
And then that's why you also brings us to an important point. That's why you want to recheck, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because you can get vitamin D toxicity. You don't want that either.
Mm-hmm.
So
I usually tell people you want to keep it under 100.
Yep. So optimal would be 90.
Yeah.
but you don't want to go over 100. So that's why you got to recheck.
That's right. And there's no one dose that fits all with this, because your level of inflammation, your ability to absorb fat, I don't know how many polar bear gallbladders you ate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know any recipes, so please don't reach out to anybody.
You're on your own on that one.
Yeah,
we got to get, what is it, Steven Ranella in here to teach us how to go or gallbladder.
So that's vitamin D. That's vitamin D. But it's a very simple thing, a very simple box to check, and start improving it. But get it tested, know where you're at, and move forward.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to check. It can have profound impacts.
Mm-hmm.
So get ran. If you're low.
Yeah. And another thing, and maybe we should talk about, since we're talking about vitamin D, years ago, you'd just get vitamin D. Now the higher end vitamin D supplements have K2. It increases the absorption of vitamin D by like 40% or 50%. Is really, really high. So anytime you're pursuing vitamin D supplementation, and there'll be a link in the bottom, you can access these kinds of products.
Yep.
It'll have K2 in it. So vitamin D with K2. That's a game changer, K2, for cardiovascular health as well as bone health. So
you got it, man.
Yeah.
So if you guys would like to reach out to us, or you got value out of this, you can get a hold of us at info@brainstormingwiththedocs.com. You can get on our websites. Mine is northlakeschiropractic.com. Dr. Glenn's is drgharrison.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. Dr. Glenn's super involved in that now. I'm super excited to see all of your social media stuff. I'll be your first follower.
I'm not going to be dancing on TikTok. It's not happening.
Oh man, come on. Maybe every once in a while. So you get a vitamin D of 6.
Yeah, maybe if I have a surge in vitamin D.
Yeah. So, just get a hold of us if you have questions, comments, concerns, ideas for a podcast you'd like us to do, because we're going to continue to roll out this stuff every other week. And again, if you'd like to get access to the supplements that we talk about, there is a link down below, as well as links to other additional podcasts. So stay tuned.
That's right.
Till next time, buddy.
All right. It's to get some sun.
Yeah. Bye.